whether or not Joe Biden was indeed, as he was claiming at the time, an adult that was going to reboot American democracy, that was going to reset what were regarded and reported to be the travesties of the Trump administration. If we now are to assume, as this case seems to verify, that that laptop was of course always legitimately Hunter Biden, that the information on that laptop always was authentic, then suppressing the laptop story, which happened at large, was, if not just plain corruption, potentially election interference. Let's have a look at this. When Mark Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan, he talked about the degree to which they censored the laptop story. Here are the things we have to consider. How important was the laptop story, Hunter Biden's exploitation of his relationship with his father, the fact that it seems to indicate that Joe Biden had business interests and potential kickbacks that are pretty peculiar, pretty off-book, pretty dark. How significant is that? How easy does it make it to believe that he's an authentic and reliable, safe pair of hands president, particularly when you see him now, when you see him in the state of decline that he's in? And how important was it that that story was censored? And then we'll look at some of the charges that are not included, the fact that this might be regarded more as a smokescreen than a victory for justice.
The distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, but basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. You know, obviously this is a hyper-political issue, so depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much, but we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which, you know, I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, if they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
The sense I get from looking at this is that the Hunter Biden matter, the laptop, the various charges, the charges that have been pursued to conviction and the charges that have been dropped and ignored as part of a sweetheart deal, are a good way of diagnosing the state of the institutions that make up an apparent democracy. It's a clear indication that we're living in times of widespread censorship and widespread corruption. The idea that this is put before us as an example of how we can rely on the judiciary is pretty ridiculous. Let's have a look at this post from Greg Price. Hunter Biden being convicted of a firearms charge is the ultimate red herring of red herrings. The DOJ allowed the statute of limitations to expire in his most serious tax charges, buried evidence of the Biden's foreign bribery allegations, and attempted to give Hunter a sweetheart deal with broad immunity. David Weiss wouldn't go after him on the serious tax charges or on Farah, because all of that would lead back to the shady business dealings involving his father. Instead, they went after him on a much lesser charge where the evidence was way too insurmountable to ignore, so they all scream nobody is above the law when they put President Trump in jail. Do you think that's a pretty fair assessment? Hey, this is exciting.